Hey fellow YouTubers, GameBro here. Welcome to my newest Let's Play. It's been a while since I've created a new walkthrough. My apologies that it took so long. As cliche as it sounds, I have been rather busy. I mean, really cliche. A lot of it has to do with actually moving out of my parents' place and into a new apartment. Quite a bit of progress. Obviously. So, yeah, I'm independent once more. Very glad to be at the age of 24. Have my internet hooked up and such. All my consoles. All my media. It's all hooked up. Everything for the most part is going pretty well. Anyways, this is Mischief Makers. As you can see, this is a pretty unique platformer that is a Nintendo exclusive. PlayStation and Saturn only owners will not be able to experience this. This is purely from a Nintendo console. See a pertinent bit of information on here. Your name, and your gender, and age. It will not mean much outside of your information from the player, obviously. Though it will contribute to something. I will not spoil anything as of now. But yes, Mischief Makers. Truth be told, I've gotten kind of bored of a good chunk of side-scrolling platformers, which is odd since that used to be one of my favorite video game genres, playing some platformers over and over again. It was quite a blast. But this particular game feels rather unique. Has a pretty unique mechanic that certainly prevents it from being boring. It certainly is a well-aged game, although the controls will certainly take some getting used to. I cannot stress enough though that by no means are the controls bad. They're just different. They're just unlike pretty much any other game I have played. That is how unique this game is. Professor Theo kind of being forced to stay here. Little does Marina know about some rescuing time, but at least it's not as cliche as, saving royalty, done countless times, obviously. I was first introduced to this game when my parents rented it for me back in 1998, 1999. According to the title screen, this game was released in 1997, not too long after Nintendo's 5th gen console released. I remember rather enjoying it. I remember rather liking it up until I got stuck with a certain boss. Couldn't figure out what the hell to do. Couldn't figure out how to defeat it at all. This game certainly does require some thinking. You cannot just simply defeat enemies. You there'll be times where we have to figure out how to do so. This game isn't too challenging, not too hard, though it does make your heart pound enough that those who are pro at games will not get bored of this either. There's still be a lot of enjoyment to be had. So I only rented that game for 2 days. For the final day, I was struggling, trying to figure out what the heck to do with that boss. How to finally take care of it after like spending an hour or so trying to figure out. Little did I realize I picked this game up a couple of years earlier, and again I find this game to be pretty well aged, and she's apparently shy. Just isn't much of a speaker at the moment. All knowing, that is kind of pretentious, but whatever. One thing I'd like to point out, the faces of these creatures kind of resemble Shy Guys, with red eyes. I decide what the hell, I'd like to make a walkthrough of this game. Wouldn't mind trying to complete everything. Get 50 seconds before that bomb explodes. Plenty of time. Collide it with the red material. That's pretty much the only kind that'll explode that a bomb will do any good against. So you have the gates, which look like stars. They'll either warp you to a different part of the level or take you to the exit. Those brighter, larger stars, radiant ones, those are the ones that'll take you to the end. Copying her, that is giving that thing too much credit. Clearly an unattractive version of Marina. Don't judge me. Getting through this game, when I was 22, what's more, it took me about 5 hours to complete this game. A good, like, half hour of it was trying to figure out techniques, mechanics on defeating them bosses. Since they're not necessarily cakewalks and can even be time-consuming how to deal damage to them in the first place, you may not even be able to tell if you are doing damage to it or not. So in other words, if you're doing it wrong, you will end up taking forever to defeat that boss. Gems were explained a bit earlier, all the way back in the first level. Those red gems are kind of the closest in this game to having currency. And even then, there's nothing to buy in this game. That's until, like, upgrade Marina and the Ultra something. I don't remember that mouthful of the full name she has. But to use those red gems, if you end up dying, in order to come back to life. And speaking of life, that gauge there, that is, you can actually have it up to 3 layers. In other words, if you think you're filled up, you can actually fill it up a couple of more times to give you a boatload of health. So again, not super challenging of a game, though you still probably receive a lot of hits. This game certainly does require some thinking. Nothing too exciting going on. Just a lot of dialogue. Do bear with me a little longer. This game will be exciting to watch very soon. Although, Marina jetpack, that alone should be entertaining enough, I would think. Don't give her any funny ideas. Should I do so? You can shake your enemies, allies, and even shake certain inanimate objects to receive gems from them. I think I gotta get back to the gems. Those blue and green ones are health. Green ones are rare, therefore restore a lot more. Them gold gems, you'll only find one in each stage. Many will have to search thoroughly, and even some of them that are in plain sight, you really have to figure out how to get to them in the first place. Very well hidden. Some of them you cannot just simply find in levels. When you face bosses, you have to defeat them without taking any damage whatsoever. And believe me, that is very much a challenge. I've yet to accomplish that with most of the bosses. Fret not, I will find a way though. I will still keep improving. Here's one of these you will frequently find in levels. She will give you some pretty good advice. A lot of it has to do with mechanics and such, physics. If you know how this game works, then you probably will not need to really speak to her. Granted, it is only 10 of the red gems, which you can find an abundance of them, find a boatload of them in many levels, but still, I mean, by the end of the game you'll probably have hundreds of them. No big deal. To anyways, get into game over. To do so, you can either pay up 10 in order to come back to life with one layer, pay up 30 to come back with a couple of layers, and 100 whopping red gems in order to come back with maximum health, full 3 layers. Which I very rarely recommend. Hardly worth it. Especially since you kind of got to practice on not receiving any hits from bosses and whatever anyways. This one's definitely a tricky one to figure out. You just need to shake this particular circle at about right now to be able to get to this particular gold gem. You're barely able to hear that jingle, but that's what it means if you get one of them gold gems. So with a platform unique assist, with her having a jetpack, being able to boost, gain great speed, and jump great heights. I'm surprised this mechanic hasn't been used more often. There have been like a lot of platformers clearly inspired by Mario, some inspired by Sonic, which hasn't had a good reputation lately. Very unfortunate. But I digress. But with something as unique as this, some that, outside of maybe some not so well known indie games, has pretty much never even used it. It is a shame that this game has never received a sequel. No sequel, no anything. Prequel. It is just simply this game where you have Marina. Perhaps Marina has had a cameo somewhere, though I'm gonna doubt it. Also, companies behind this game be Enix, before combined with Square, and the developer would be Treasure, the same one that did games like Ikaruga, Wario World, Gunstar Heroes. Mostly good games, from what I can tell. The only other one of theirs I have played would be Wario World, which is a fun game on its own, but damn it, it's short. 8 levels, really? That game was in development for a pretty good length of time, too. That is all the experience I've had with Treasure games, which is very much fitting because both in Wario World and this you collect lots of treasure, ironically. Wonder how many more of their games focus heavily on treasure, given the company's name. So that is that particular gold gem, and don't get used to it. It's very easy to get. Then I have to explain, since the game probably didn't explain too well. Press down and A to use the sliding and jump again as you're using it to use a technique that speedrunners would clearly use. Very much helpful. You're able to use a jetpack with either the C stick or the pad. You actually mash twice as much with the pad than you do with C stick. So one question people might ask is, why the heck would you want to use the why would you want to tie your left thumb more when you can have it a bit easier with the right thumb? When you can use the jetpack there? Well, the difference is that if you use the jetpack with the pad, you'll end up gaining more speed than you would with the C stick. Still get a decent amount of speed with the C stick, but there will be occasional times where it will clearly not be enough. It clearly won't. So I guess you kind of have to mix between them, whether you are able to take it easy, or whether you need to rush through things, depending on whether you want to use the C-stick or use the pad. It's not evident at first that the pad is more quick, but it is evident after a couple of seconds of boosting.